And welcome back. In this video I'm going to show you some of the basics of Git. One of the first things you're going to want to do when you have just installed Git, or when you're moving to a different project, what you want to do is git config global name. What you do here is, because in version control systems like Subversion, your credentials depend on your authorization. You have to log in and stuff in order to access the repository. In Git, everything you do is local. Everything. Except for pushing and pulling from other repositories. Practically everything's local. So branching, merging, adding files, deleting files, committing things, it all happens locally in your own personal Git repository. And one of the first things that you want to make sure is that you have a username and an email address that are recognizable. By default, it's gonna try and figure it out. For instance, in this case, it would probably give me the decamu@vps.my domain name, and it would probably call me decamu in the first place. That's all fine. I just want to make sure that you get this right. Especially in Windows, it can get a bit icky because it can't really figure out your domain name, and it's probably going to be wrong anyway. So this is what you want to do. This is what you always want to do. You can set these on a per repository basis, so you can configure a different username and email address specifically for a single repository. We're going to get into that later. That's a whole lot of different sort of thing. But yeah, this is the first thing that you want to do after you've installed Git. Just open some kind of console and run these two. Obviously you don't want to use these exact things, but you get the gist of it. Now what we're going to do first is get a repository started. Now if you're coming from Subversion, and I was kind of promising myself not to mention Subversion too often, but looks like it's a point of reference for many people. If you're coming from Subversion, a repository is this giant thing that sits on the server and you just check out bits of it. That's not what a Git repository is. A Git repository is everything there is about that one project, right? What you normally check out in a Subversion repository is the thing with the trunk and branches directories. That's a Git repository. That's what you would make a Git repository of. Alright, and so what I've done here is I've made a little directory, called it repo1. I'm going to go ahead and create a repository. There you go. Now this current directory is a Git repository. There's no server involved, nothing's going on, it's all local. So no worries. What's this done? Well, not all that much. All it's really done is added this little directory here. And it contains a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm going to get into most of this in a bit. I'm going to get you some of the basics first, and I'm going to go ahead and go back to the beginning, show you where everything is, how everything's stored. Because Git really is very simple. You can understand everything about Git from the ground up, and it's really not that complicated. And obviously the plus point of that is if you can understand how everything works in the background, there's going to be no magic for you. If a strange error message crops up, you're going to be able to figure out what that means if you know how everything works, where everything's stored and so forth. So I've created a Git repository here. This is not yet, it's just got this .git repository. I can show you Git status. Obviously what I've just done here, git init, just creates a Git repository out of the directory you're in. If you want any sort of help, for instance, if I want to know what Git Init does, Git help will help you. Git help init here will tell you it tends to be kind of verbose and really doesn't have that many examples and such. But if you want to get into what sort of options there are available, this is where you want to go. So Git Init just turns the current directory into a Git repository. Git status just sort of tells you a pithy little message about what's going on right now in your repository. Right now there's absolutely nothing. It tells me here what branch I'm on, branch master. I'll get into that later. What commit I'm on. Alright, I'm on the initial commit. There is nothing in there yet. So let's go ahead and add something. I'll go ahead and create a file called, let's call it hello.txt. So now our directory contains hello.txt, and hello.txt contains the text hello. Not much to it. Now if I do git status, I can see it tells me most of the same things, but it also tells me there are untracked files. That means there is a file that Git can find, but it doesn't know what to do with. It's untracked, so it doesn't have any knowledge of that file. So what we're going to have to do is, it says it right there, obviously, is we're going to have to add that file. Now, there you go. Now it should tell you changes to be committed. Used to be it said these are untracked, I don't know what to do with them. Now it says these are things that I'm going to commit for you. Alright. What git add does, again, if you're coming from Subversion, add is there to add new files. In Git, add is there to add files to staging. And staging is sort of a halfway house. Let's see if I've got my smooth draw here. Ooh, hang on, let me just get rid of that. Oh, that's tiny. Hang on a minute. That huge eraser. So I don't have a pen or a tablet or any sort of thing, so this is going to be hideously ugly. Let me just grab. Nope, that's not there. So yeah, it adds your git add adds your file to staging. Without git add, nothing gets done. So you've basically got your own private little. Does this work? Yeah, you've got your own private little working directory. I'm writing with my mouse, so it looks awful. Doesn't look much better than my actual handwriting, but still, it's a bit sloppy. You've got your own working directory where you can add files, just move files around and make changes and do basically anything you want. Without disturbing Git. But once you interact with Git, Git only knows about the files that you've told it about, obviously. On the other side here is Git. That's your main repository. This is where all your branches and stuff are at. And then there's a halfway house called staging. Ooh. Stage. Oh, damn. It's a tiny G there. So git add from your mess of files and changes that you've got here. Basically, you say git add this file and this file to staging. So and you don't just do this for new files. You do this for changed files. You do this for moved files. Always, all changes you want to do, you add to staging. Staging is basically, this is what I want to appear in my next commit. So next time I commit something, next time I do a commit, I want to commit everything in staging. Right, so I'll show you where that goes now. So right now we can see here changes to be committed. They're in the halfway house. We're going to go ahead and commit with a message. I'm going to give it the -m option. If you don't, it'll just pop up an editor. Normally don't want that. Usually what you want to do is just git commit -m added hello.txt with a little pithy message. Boom, there you go. Now it has a commit, and it's moved everything that was in staging, in our case just hello.txt. It's moved everything into Git as a commit, and now staging's empty again. As we can see, here that there's nothing to commit. Working directory is completely clean. We're on branch master. There's really nothing going on anymore. It's because we've committed all of our changes. Where's my smooth draw? There it is. So this is now clean. There is no more changes to be committed. Basically it's all back to square one there. So this is all going away. That's all gone away. Staging's empty. And the changes that I made, in this case adding that one file, is now right there inside of Git. There's my hello.txt is right there. So that's what that does. That you want to do a git add, unless you do things that Git knows about, like git move. Maybe I'll just show that now. For instance, if I wanted to rename this file, I could just rename the file. Just rename the file, but now Git has something to complain about. For instance, this hello.txt, which it used to know about, has gone. Oh, and by the way, I've got an untracked file. Yeah, that's not very nice. I moved a file and I didn't tell Git about it. Sorry, Git. What I can do, one of two things. Just move it back. We'll see there's nothing there. I can just use git move. Now I just let Git move it for me, and it automatically updates its own sort of it just updates its own information, and it does this in staging, right? It does these changes. Hang on. So I can show you this in another way. It does that in staging. Now we're back to normal, so there's no changes no more. I've undid it. What's in staging right now is exactly the same thing as that is in my working directory, as well as in sorry, that was a Z. I tend to move my hands a lot when I talk. As well as what's in the actual repository. Everything's the same now. What I can also do is just move hello, call it to hello2. Now it'll say, hang on, something's wrong. Yeah, that's right. So I'll just add that file. It'll say, yeah, there's this new file and there's this deleted file as well. But it's a change that has not yet been updated. Alright, so I can do there. The file doesn't exist. That's fine, because I moved it. Now that I've removed the old file and added the new file, it automatically detects, oh look, you've renamed this file. Magic! How it does this exactly, we'll get into later. So right, that's about it for now. That's some adding files and committing for a bit. Let's see, what else did I do? Yeah, I did a whole bunch of things. I hope this is clear enough. Yeah, this is awful. Oh well, it's only my second video. Give me a break. Cut me some slack, brother. Brother, what am I? Okay. Well, I'll see you in the next video before I make it any worse for myself.